let's look at the comments of Fikile Mbalula at the weekend, all but confirming what many of us had believed. Many of us had suspected that the ANC lied to protect Jacob Zuma. At the weekend, he said that in relation to the renovations done at Nkandla, that at the state's expense, and in particular the controversial fire pool, he says we lied for Jacob Zuma. We called a fire pool a swimming pool. He's now done a little bit of an about turn. He then issued a clarification on Twitter, saying that he did not admit that ANC did not generally defend Jacob Zuma, and that they were ultimately just holding up the rule of law until there were concrete findings in the Constitutional Court. And the Constitutional Court did find that Jacob Zuma must repay the money for Nkandla. Dr. Levy Ndou is a political analyst, joining me now on the line. Just a case of the regular foot-in-mouth disease displayed by Fikile Mbalula, or was there a tacit acknowledgement there that the ANC has in the past lied and voted to support leadership in the form of Jacob Zuma, even though he was blatantly in the wrong for the upgrades to his Nkandla homestead? Levi, good morning.
Good morning to you, Lester. Good morning to the listeners at home. Happy New Year, and thank you for having me. Well, I think what Mbalula has done is to actually, firstly, to bring everybody into light on what we all believed in. A clear acknowledgement that whatever was happening during that era was actually done in protection of former President Jacob Zuma. There is also a clear a trend on all this, that they were found not to have done the right thing by the public protector, rather by the courts. And Justice Zondo further says that there should be further scrutiny and further accountability exercise on the part of Parliament based on what happened in the past. My sense also is that because the ANC is preaching a renewal, I think it is also good for the ANC to come out clear, and where they add, they indicate such, and then talk about change, and ordinary citizens should be able to see change in the ANC. But the reality of the matter is that whether confirmed by Mbalula or not, the fact of the matter is that a swimming pool can never be something else. It's a swimming pool. It cannot be a fire extinguisher, because there is a clear difference between a fire extinguisher and a swimming pool.
Levi, what renewal can there be when the leader of the ANC, now Cyril Ramaphosa, goes into a 2024 election, preaching renewal, preaching a turn of a new leaf, when Cyril Ramaphosa himself in 2016 as deputy president and as an MP in the National Assembly voted to endorse the Nathi Nhleko report, which essentially exonerated Jacob Zuma at the time?
Lester, it is quite unfortunate that the systems that we have in South Africa, which is the party representation system, requires members of the different political parties to go sit down and then agree on how they are going to approach each matter. The unfortunate part is that it is actually happening and is confirmed that it has happened with the ANC. But with our political party representation system, political parties will go sit down, agree on what is supposed to be done, and unfortunately, if you do things that are against the party, you actually get punished. But what is good about everything else is that there is a clear acknowledgement on the part of the ANC that what they did was wrong. The biggest question in my view would be, what is next for the ANC? Now that they've realized that they've done wrong, how are they going to approach similar instances in the future? Are they going to lie to protect their leaders and then tell us that they lied at the end of the day, which is something that we still have to wait and see. But at the same time, Cyril Ramaphosa and all other members of the ANC who were in parliament at the time, unfortunately had to toe the party line, which has got its own advantages and disadvantages.
Fikile Mbalula saying that Jacob Zuma, there need not be any disciplinary hearing against Jacob Zuma because Jacob Zuma has essentially expelled himself from the ANC, now the face of the MK party. The MK party says, well, they don't actually have a leadership, but Jacob Zuma is likely to be the face of that political party in the 2024 elections. This started towards the end of 2023 with the formation of this new party. One could say it was probably a good tactic for the ANC not to rush into any announcement, essentially being led by Jacob Zuma to make some sort of pronouncement. But what does this practically mean for Jacob Zuma, his involvement with the ANC, and how that party contests against him, particularly in KZN, come 2024?
It's a very tricky situation. It's tricky in the sense that Jacob Zuma has indicated that he's not leaving the ANC, and his membership in the ANC is still intact. But number two, his behavior automatically creates a situation where Jacob Zuma has to be expelled from the party. His actions are those of people that are not within the party. But there is one view that I always share with most people that appears to be saying that former President Jacob Zuma could have studied how other people who left the party are doing outside the ANC. And in this case, I will look at Ace Magashule and Kalni House, who both were expelled from the party, and they have not been doing well with their political parties. And that is why Kalni House had to join the EFF. And my sense is that Jacob Zuma has realized that outside the ANC, he might not be able to make it. And the strategy is to be within the ANC and still become a factor within the ANC. And that is why he's trying to mobilize within the ANC, because outside the ANC, he cannot be able to make it. Another factor that, in my view, we need to look at is that the ANC is the one that has to determine what they have to do with Jacob Zuma. And unfortunately, everybody is waiting for that action to come from the ANC. Fikile Mbalula himself, the SG, says that they are going to respond at the right time. They are going to provide leadership. But whether we like it or not, there is a lot of damage that Jacob Zuma has done to the ANC, and he continues to do it. And in my view, it will require the leadership of the ANC to provide a calculated move.
Levy Ndou, political analyst, really appreciate your time.